السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah we'll take hadith number 26 inshallah. طيب. يقول عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: كل سلام من الناس عليه صدقة كل يوم تطلع فيه الشمس تعدل بين اثنين صدقة وتعين الرجل في دابته فتحمله عليها أو ترفع له عليها متاعه صدقة والكلمة الطيبة صدقة وبكل خطوة تمشيها إلى الصلاة صدقة وتميط الأذى عن الطريق صدقة. رواه البخاري ومسلم. This hadith is one of the great hadith, as all of the hadith of course, especially the 40 hadith Nawawi, which gives principles more than anything else, something that you can relate to many of the different actions. A hadith that you can use it in many different situations, gives you a criteria or a principle that you can use in many different things. So here the Prophet ﷺ is saying, Kullu sulama. Kullu sulama. The sulama is basically the joints. The joints that is between, or it's more that between the two, always there's a stone between the two joints. This is the sulama. So they usually say the joints, and it's basically that thing between the joints between the human being, which is, and sometimes they use it as like even for the veins, but it's mainly the joints, and the plural of it is sulamiyat or sulamiyat. So this is basically the joints. كل سلامة من الناس عليه صدقة. Every sulama from the people, عليه means upon him, صدقة. That means there is a sadaqah or a charity upon the person for every sulama. For every sulama, the joints, the parts of the body. How many are they? What is meant here is not to know that from the anatomy of a person's point of view, but the Prophet ﷺ, he said it in the Hadith in Sahih Muslim, that there are 360. So there are 360 sulama in one's body, right? So for each and every one of them, and human beings are all the same. So upon a person, for each and every sulama, there is a sadaqah. So there is a charity that he has to give for each and every sulama, whether it's a part of one's body, an organ, or a joint, or the bones in the human body. This is something that a person has to give a charity upon every day. كل يوم تطلع فيه الشمس. Every day the sun rises. And that means this is a daily charity that has to be fulfilled, that the person is still alive every day. He has to give a charity every day for every joint or every bone in his body. And this charity is a way to show one's gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that a person is grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, since these joints is not something that a human being earns, it's something that is given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the Prophet ﷺ showed us how to, what is the meaning of that charity in that sense. But if a person doesn't have money, if a person doesn't have the means to give charity, And this is the examples that we're just about to hear now, inshallah ta'ala. Before I finish them, even though I should mention that at the end, it shows that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to do something, it's in each and everyone's capacity. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put a burden on someone unless he can bear it and he can do it. So, and this is something that is very clear in the deen of Islam. So when someone, for example, listen to the first statement or the first sentence of the Hadith, 360 charity every day on each and every person, this is something that is overwhelming. So does that mean that the deen is basically beyond one's capacity? The answer is no. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us, that means it's in one's capacity. Just we need to have the knowledge of it and to seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be able to do it by the will of Allah. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ explained what it means. The first one, تَعْدِلُ بَيْنَ اثْنَيْنِ صَدَقَةً. To ta'dil, from al-adl, to be just between two people is charity. And ta'dil here, that means two people that are in disputes or they are boycotting each other, they seeking a judgment in a matter. So when you bring peace between them, when you give them a judgment, if a person is able to, he has that mean, and that requires knowledge, of course, this is charity. So this is a charity from him to them, to protect them, to guard them from disputes and boycotting one another, and that leads them to backbite or to not to fulfill the rights of a Muslim, and sins are involved here. So when a person fix that dispute between two, he's doing so much great favor for both of them. So this is a sadaqah, this is a charity that a person would do that between two, and this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised in the Quran. لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس. There is no goodness in many of the secret talks that people do have, except if it's someone that enjoining or ordering people to give charity or doing something ma'ruf, something norm of goodness, or to bring a dispute, to fix a dispute between people. So this is such a great deed, of course. And that's one of the reasons even a person, why should he seek knowledge? The people of knowledge, they used to stay away from the job of being a judge, because as the Prophet ﷺ said that the judges are three types, two in the hellfire. If one is a judge and he judges between people without knowledge, he's in hellfire. If he does do the unjust ruling, he is also in hellfire. And the only one in Jannah is the one that does it with the proper knowledge and he is just. So many of them would run away from that position, and people that are in need of someone, of course, to judge between them. But this can be on a better category, and that is to bring peace between people. And this is a good thing. Anybody, they used to actually compete to do this. And a sulh is more general than just a judgment. A judgment, a person has to be, being very careful and to be extremely just. But to bring sulh or peace between two people, that means you would try to make both sides compromise a little bit for them to reach matters of goodness between them. So, تعدل بين اثنين صدقة. This is one of the forms of charity to do. وتعين الرجل في دابته فتحمل عليه. تعين الرجل, you help the man, you help a man في دابته, in his dabba. A dabba is the animal that he uses to carry his mata' or his affairs or things. And his dabba, whether it's an animal or a car or anything. So you help someone, فَتَحْمِلُ عَلَيْهَا, you carry him to ride on his transportation because he's not able to, or he's already on top of it, and you help him by lifting his mata', some of his belongings to him. So someone is not able to get into his car, someone is not able to carry his bags, for example, in the car or whatever. This is whatever that applies. This is just as an example. The Prophet ﷺ is not setting here the definition of the hadith. This is just examples of what things are sadaqah. So this is a charity. This is something done as a charity from the beginning of the hadith that a person has to do for his own self. وَالْكَلِمَةُ الطَّيِّبَةُ صَدَقَةٌ. الْكَلِمَةُ الطَّيِّبَةُ, the good word, the pure word, is sadaqah. The good word is any dhikr, any dua that a person do to himself, any salam, responding to a salam, anything that brings happiness in the heart of a person that is listening to you. Of course, seeking knowledge, teaching knowledge. All of these things are comes under the category of al-kalimatu tayyiba, the pure word. Because as we know as a principle also that if a person stay away from the haram, this is also a good deed. So a person saying good, that means he's not saying bad. And people either will say pure or impure things. So to say al-kalimatu tayyiba, الصدقة is a charity that a person get rewards for it. وبكل خطوة تمشيها إلى الصلاة صدقة. And with every خطوة, with every step that تمشيها, you walk it to the salah, is صدقة. And that's of course the importance and the encourage to go to the jama'at and to the masajid and to this is every step is a charity, and this is all great means to fulfill this duty every day. وتميط الأذى عن الطريق صدقة, and تميط الأذى, إماطة الأذى, that means إزالة الأذى, to remove harmful things عن الطريق, away from the path of the people. This is also صدقة. Anything that harms the people from the road, whether it's part of a tree or garbage or anything. This is and then the Prophet ﷺ, when he said بينما رجل يمشي بطريق, while a man was walking on a path, وجد غصن شوك على الطريق, he found a piece of a thorn trunk or something like this that has thorn on the path of the people. فأخره, so he moved it away from the path of the people. فشكر الله له فغفر له. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was grateful to him, and he forgave his sins for something simple like this. So these are examples of things. And of course the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the other hadith, وَرَكَعْتَانِ مِنَ الضُّحَى تَرْكَعْهُمَا, and 2 rak'ah of the duha that you pray them, تَعْدِلُ ذَلِكَ كُلَّ, would suffice for all of this, to make 2 rak'ah of duha. But here this hadith with this narration like this, as we see, it shows the importance of looking into this life from that perspective. So having this consciousness when we wake up in the morning that we're waking up to work. There's work to be done. And it doesn't matter whether a person is going out of his house to work in an institute or he has his own business, or this is the real work. The work that people call work, this is, yes, it's good and it's important, but this is one of the means to establish this. This is a goal, and one of the means to help a person to establish these, duty is to go to work. Meaning, like if a person look at, the life from that perspective, a person waking up in the morning, there's 360 job that I have to fulfill today. So how can I do this? Well, I have to earn money so that I'm able to do this. This is how he look at the physical work that people do. But this is the concern. This is the goal of the day, to fulfill the obligations, to do the optional acts of worship and things like this, and to seek knowledge, of course. So this is, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that as an example, and it shows that the charity is not only limited to wealth, but there are all kinds of charity that a person can do as long as there's benefit and extended to others. And it shows the virtue of guarding the salawat in the masjid and helping others to achieve this. So the same thing for women. If they are staying at home and they encourage the people at home, the men to go to the masjid, they get the same reward, as the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ shows this. And the importance of being productive and effective among people in their communities. And there is a zakah on everything, and one of which one's health and one's body and things like this. This is basically to show that virtue, and this is such an important hadith in one's life. And one of the benefits, as we said before, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He ordered us to do something, He makes it in the capacity upon each and every one. And we heard the hadith before about the tasbih and the tahmid and the takbir after the salah, and the competition between the rich and the poor at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the reality of this and to help us and to guide us to fulfill these rights and these duties on a daily basis, inshallah. طيب بارك الله فيكم جزاكم الله خيرا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all, and inshallah ta'ala we'll continue tomorrow inshallah.